Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. This is Mellon Money Management. My name is Ian Aguilar. I'm here with my partner Scott Snyder, and we're here today to talk to you guys about historic low student loan rates and what it means for parents today. We're going to start off by just asking a few questions to Scott, and because he's our residential student loan expert. So I'll ask the question. We all know rates have gone really low lately throughout the whole economy. And recently, student loan rates just adjusted, right? So did that happen with student loan rates as well, or rates are really low, or what's going on there? What's determining those loan rates?
Yeah, rates have come down even with student loans. We're actually probably at historic low right now with the undergrad loans being at 2.75%. So it's a steal if you're borrowing right now. But I know there's a lot of people thinking about even whether or not they want to send their kids to college because of the watered down experience that it might be, if it's going to be online. But yeah, what's going on is the U.S. Treasury, the 10-year Treasury rate is pegged to student loan rates. And so depending on if you're going to undergrad, grad school, or if you're getting a Parent Plus loan, you're going to have varying levels of rates. For instance, the Grad Plus loan is now at 4.3%. Previously, it was at 6.08. Last year, undergrad loans were at 4.5. Now we're at 2.75. So you can see that we're getting borrowers are getting a much better deal than a decade ago. When generally speaking, I saw 6.8%, 7.5%, 8% loans, just to get an undergrad degree or graduate degree. So.
Right. So is that with private loans? Is that happening too? Are we seeing what's exactly happening in that?
Yeah, they've come down, but they love to tease out the variable rates when they are advertising. I mean, because you can get a 1.25 rate with Sallie Mae.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be like the shorter duration you go on a loan, the better terms you're going to get. So they give this 1.25 to 11% range. It's like, okay, well, guessing the 1.25 is going to be, I'm going to have to be in like a 5-year loan. Well, most people aren't paying their loans back in 5 years, especially the larger the amount that you borrow. And if you're getting a private loan, you're likely exceeding what you're able to borrow through the federal program. So more often than not, you're better off going with the federally backed programs if you can. Where it's more debatable is the Parent Plus versus like a private loan. And because right now Parent Plus loans are at 5.3%, and last year they were at 7%. So certainly something to consider there when even looking at like Sallie Mae's fixed rate loans. At the lowest that they offer right now is 4.25. But again, I think that's going to be closer to the 5-year time frame. If you scroll into the kind of the fine print, they show an example of like for like your standard 10-year loan, they're quoting 8.5%. So just something to keep in mind when you're evaluating it. But it's certainly more of a coin flip when you're comparing Parent Plus to Sallie Mae, and still probably like the Parent Plus better because of some of the federal programs that offer a little bit more generous repayment flexibility.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people see those low loan rates and they ask themselves, well, why don't I just refinance? And I think it's typically the really attractive numbers just aren't there until you are attracted to the bank as well. So it's kind of makes it so those people who actually truly need it can't get the really attractive loan rates.
Yep.
So I guess refinancing is out of the question, but at least rates are really low. I mean, even if it's the fixed rates from the federal, those are really low, which is a benefit. So do you think that's going to have a large effect on demand for loans? Because I mean, it's a cheaper way to get money now. It's almost, you're barely paying anything in interest. So do you think more people will be wanting to go take loans out because of the low rates?
Potentially. I mean, I'll answer that question in a second, but like refinancing does sometimes make sense if you're out of school. You got to evaluate that. But for those that are sending their children to school, yeah, certainly don't refinance. Go with the federal programs.
Sure.
You just want to make sure to clarify that point. But when it comes to is there going to be higher demand for the loans? Maybe. There is that arbitrage game of, well, I could borrow at 2.75% and then invest my money while markets were somewhat down. They were down much further back in March, but try to make money, if you will, on the spread between what you would earn on your investment, say 8 or 10%, just call it 10% for easy math. You're borrowing at 2.75, you've made 8.25% theoretically. We personally don't like that game because you can lose money in the markets too.
Sure.
And then you've got a double negative. So our preference is to take the more cautious, conservative approach.
Yeah, plus it's the numbers that you're paying for education. Yeah, are they sizable numbers? But when you're talking about over the long term, it's probably just easier to play it safe and just pay that amount that you're paying, especially since
you don't need to borrow. Don't borrow.
Yeah.
I think that's what caused the Great Depression, right? People were borrowing to the hilt and investing their money. Generally speaking, you want to use cash to invest. And so, but back to the student loan, is there going to be more demand? The issue I think is there's going to be less people going to school. So, I mean, maybe the people that are in proportion that are going to school are going to be using the loans more because the rates are more attractive, and maybe their parents are in a not as advantageous financial position. So that could be the case there. But, at the end of the day, I think people should follow our guidance of, taking the more conservative approach and paying, for it as much out of pocket as you can, and then borrowing only what you absolutely need.
Yeah. I mean, also, one thing I've always heard too is that just the actual dollar amounts that a couple of points of interest pan out to be really isn't that much. So it's, to your point, it's more just the demand side. Or do kids want to go to school these days based on the environment more so?
Right. I mean, you're talking what, $8 difference, I think I saw, between last year's rates and this year's rates. If you were to borrow $10,000, so an $8 a month difference.
Yeah, that's not
what you save. So, I mean, yeah, that adds up to about $1,000 over the life of the 10-year, if you're doing a 10-year repayment. But, and then if obviously, if you're borrowing a lot and you're more in the grad school level where you're borrowing closer to 80 to 100, that is meaningful.
Sure. So I guess, lastly, I'm sure a lot of parents are wondering this in particular is how do you actually go about logistically getting these loans? If we talk about the idea of student loans, and I think because parents haven't gone through this process in so long, how does the logistics of actually receiving this money happen?
So, I mean, it really depends. But for instance, if you've taken out loans before, it's pretty immediate when you start the semester. But if you've never taken out a federal loan before, there are kind of 3 things that you need to be aware of. And because it's long, I'm going to read it. If you're a first-year undergraduate student and a first-time borrower, you may have to wait 30 days after the first day of your enrollment period before your school is allowed to give you your loan money. You'll need to check with your school to see whether this rule applies. Then also, the second point is if you're a first-time borrower of a direct subsidized loan or direct unsubsidized loan, you must complete entrance counseling before your school can give you your loan money. That's basically their CYA kind of checkpoint to make sure that you understand what it is to be a borrower. And then thirdly, if you are a graduate or professional student taking out a Direct Plus loan for the first time, you must complete an entrance counseling before you receive your first loan disbursement. Note that counseling does not apply for parents who are applying for Parent Plus loans. So.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's pretty straightforward and easy to get. Definitely a lot of positives, right? With rates being so low and make it attractive, at least to a certain extent, that's meaningful for students who are looking for those student loans.
I mean, going back to when we were in school, the terms are certainly better than when we were in school. So the burden is easier for those right now entering school, but at the same time, there is that looming question: am I getting the same level of education and experience out of this if I'm doing it all online? So
that's a good question.
Have some debating to do with their kids.
Yeah, I think that's a question all families are mulling over right now. All right, well, thanks guys for joining us. Please like our video, check out our other resources, our blog on our website, subscribe to our page. And if you guys need any help, please feel free to schedule a consultation through our webpage, www.mellonmoney.com, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you.